I'm George Curtis. Welcome to It's Your Law. Each week it's my privilege to bring guests that kind of widen all of our appreciation or concern about your law. It's your law. We are a democracy, and if you're active about it, the law will reflect what you think is important and right. Some of these guests come from courts. Some of them come from businesses. They may come from healthcare. All of the issues that are important in this country. And there are lots of important issues. We're going to be reminded of many of them with the elections that are going on this particular year. I can't think of a more important issue to your country and mine than the treatment of people. The treatment of people who are here, people who are coming here, and people who want to remain here and contribute. The general term is immigration. We're going to be talking to some people who can tell us about it up front because they've experienced it, and they want us to know what it's like and what they can bring to this country. My first guest is somebody that I met recently who gave a great presentation at a church where my wife is employed, and I want you to meet him. His name is Hiram Torres. Welcome to the show.
Nice to meet you, sir. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure.
You're located in Fond du Lac.
Yes, we are.
And tell us a little bit about your family and business and what you do in Fond du Lac.
Well, we opened our business 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago. We do have a small facility as an auto repair shop in Fond du Lac. And we are trying to be involved with the community, and offer our service and reasonable prices,
Well, and every time I see you, you bring the same lovely lady. Are you married?
I am married, yeah. She's my other half, and I'm glad to be married to this beautiful lady.
Well, she certainly is, but she seems to be reasonably satisfied with the choice she made too.
Right? Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We also have our two daughters. Paula, she's 20, Amy, 18. And we are proud grandparents of our grandson, of course, Julian, from my older daughter.
And where are you from?
We are from Mexico. Yeah, we are from Mexico.
And how long have you lived in this country?
We came over in 2001. It's almost 20 years, and from day one we have been trying to fit in the community and do our part as a community members.
Well, you very much fit in the community. You own a business.
We do.
You live here, probably own a home.
Almost paid off.
I see.
Yes.
And you contribute real estate taxes.
Correct.
Income taxes.
That's right.
You participate in the community, and in what ways do you do that?
Well, we are also glad to be part of some nonprofits in Fond du Lac. I'm a part of the Fond du Lac Morning Rotary Club, member of them, and a Rotarian. Also, another nonprofit, Avon Vision, which is a Black people group, a nonprofit in Fond du Lac also. We are part also of our own, I can say our own group, because we started Latinos Unidos in Fond du Lac. And I'm proud of being part of this group also.
And I'll bet your children go through and have gone through the school system?
Correct, in North Fond du Lac, actually.
Okay.
We do live in North Fond du Lac.
All right. And tell me what they do.
Well, my older daughter, probably some people know, some other people don't, but she's a DACA recipient. And this is kind of like they are under some type of protection, which President Obama did in 2012, I believe. And they are being under this type of protection since then. She's not a citizen, but she's under this type of protection. My younger daughter, she was born actually in Fond du Lac. And she's almost done from college, and she's planning on going to UW Milwaukee.
All right.
If I come back a little, my older daughter, she want to be a nurse, and she's going to, for now, to MPTC in Fond du Lac also. So they're both going to college.
Well, you and your family and many people similarly situated contribute to this country and your community in many ways. You pay real estate taxes.
Yep.
All right. You pay income taxes.
Mm-hmm.
You have money taken from your taxes to provide for Medicare for everybody who benefits from that.
Sure.
And Social Security. Correct?
That is correct.
All right. Many people have the illusion, because of misinformation put out there, that you and other hardworking immigrants are sucking money from the system, taking away welfare from the citizens. But that's not true, is it?
Well, it's not true, and that is where we kind of like want to fit, trying to educate people about the situation. It is sometimes hard to let people know. Some people can name it like we are ignorant, but we are not. We just need to be educated about the situation, But some people have sometimes the wrong idea about immigrants. Sometimes, or we are being labeled of being certain things that we are not. And definitely we want to fit in the community and trying to support the system, pay our dues and in every manner. And yeah, we are trying to do.
Of the billions of dollars that undocumented immigrants pay into Social Security, they can't take out a penny, can they?
Well, yeah, the system allows us to pay what we have to pay, but unfortunately for some people in the same case, if you don't have a Social Security number, you are not allowed to take any.
And the same is true with Medicare.
And every single, yes, on every single level of trying to collect something that it is part of you, to be have a benefit. And yeah, unfortunately, there is no way to get at this moment.
And almost all of the people who are in your situation work and communicate and participate in the economy.
That's correct. Yes, yes.
And I read something just within the last week that the probability of an immigrant committing a crime or being charged with a crime in this country is actually lower than the probability of a native-born person.
Well, yes, that's correct too. The way we try to see it, it doesn't really matter your skin color or where you're coming from. Crimes and this kind of stuff, it happens on every single culture. We know that. Like I said, going back a little, we have been labeled of being certain type of person that when we are not, like I said before, we understand the point where yes, it could be bad people and immigrants, but not all of us. Not all the people is the same. And it's I'm not bragging in any manner, but I'm just trying to do my part, and I'm kind of like I can talk for most of the immigrants. They are just trying. They're being here, trying to offer a better future for your family. That's the motor, that's the engine, that's the motivation for, being here and try, like I say, try to find
Hiram, hold that thought. We're going to have to take our first break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you about driving privileges and responsibilities for immigrants.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Your Law. We have a new guest, Vicente Lezama Morales. Did I get that right?
Yep, Lezama.
Okay, well, I just learned off camera that as a part of the Mexican culture that you use two last names. And our prior guest, I left one of them out. I don't want to do that again. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate it. You're from Mexico.
I am, yep.
Tell me how you got here and what you do.
Yeah, so I came to Mexico when I was about 9 years old with my mom and my sister, and I've been living in Fond du Lac for about 15 years now. And as of now, I own a salon in Fond du Lac. So I'm a business owner there. I'm a cosmetologist, so I do hair for a living and just the beauty aspect of it. And also, I am a community member who is very active in just standing up for what I believe is right.
So you have invested and taken the risks of business ownership in what to you was an adopted new country.
Absolutely, yeah. It was something that I've thought of when I graduated beauty school. I just always wanted to own a salon, but also be able to contribute back to my community as well.
And while I'm sure you offer services and they are purchased by people of all kinds of cultures, tell us just a little bit about the Spanish community in Fond du Lac. There are other people there working and contributing, aren't there?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, owning a salon, you get the privilege of meeting different people from everywhere. So I think the beauty of the Latino community in Fond du Lac is that we are extremely diverse when it comes to what we do. So there's people that work in the auto field. There's people that work in the restaurant field. There's people that work in schools. I mean, like the Latino community is represented in every aspect in Fond du Lac, right? And I think to me, that's what I love to see, is that there is a Latino person at least somewhere. And that's not something that used to be even a couple years ago. But it's good to see that people are representing us and that we are being there to say, hey, like, we are here, right? Like, there is a Latino community in this town. So I think that's really good to see.
Now, you were present in the studio when Hiram and I were talking about the problems of these people, because they are immigrants, cannot get a driver's license, and the problems the impediments that creates in their production and their contribution to the community. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts are very close to home. I have family members that cannot drive because of the fact that they don't have a driver's license. One of the biggest things is, I think growing up as a kid and, hearing the anxiety that my parents or my family members would have because of driving, you, as a child, you kind of grow up with like fear of driving, or you grew up with fear of like getting stopped by the police, right? Like, we're supposed to like rely on them to keep us safe, but like if you're constantly hearing that every morning that you're going to go to school because your parents can't drive legally, then it creates a fear within you to say like, wow, I have to like, when I drive, I have to go on the speed limit. I have to be like doing everything right, because you just have this internal fear of your parents just reminding you that like if they do anything wrong, they might get pulled over. And sometimes it's not even because of actual like traffic regulations. It's just they might get pulled over because they're just driving. So
absolutely, somebody can rear end you. Mm-hmm. You get pulled over, mm-hmm. and the police officer asks for your driving license. You don't have one. Mm-hmm. You have committed a violation right there. Right. And with the current attitude coming out of Washington, mm-hmm. that can be used as an excuse to deport you.
Right.
Just because somebody rear-ended you and because you were prevented by Wisconsin law to have a driving license.
Absolutely. I mean, with the administration that we have at the moment, it has created so much fear within the community with anything that they can do. And, I think the biggest thing is that there's no in-between anymore. It's like you get in trouble and then you're deported. It's just, there's no in-between, where it used to be at least a little bit lenient. So, and that happens all the time. I mean, I had a client who they just parked their motorcycle, got run over. Like, somebody ran over their motorcycle, and then he had to pay her and had tickets because he didn't have a driver's license. So he never got his motorcycle back. So it's constantly happening every single day.
Well, what can we do about that?
So the biggest thing that voters can do is, you can do the right thing when it comes to it. So it doesn't, as Hiram said, we're not trying to change political sides on anything, but I think we're trying to do is educate people that having a driver's license is a safely way for everybody in the community to contribute, a safely way to have regulations, have a driver's license. It's also a way to, if there is an accident, then they are going to be insured because they can now actually have something that they can show. It just creates a better community, and it creates a better, safe community that it also takes away the fear of driving for the Latino community as well. So
I would think that law enforcement would be most benefited by having everyone who drives have a license. It doesn't carry with it the right to vote, the right to get welfare, the right to get Medicare, or anything else, even though those same folks probably have contributed to all of those things. But many of the fearmongers claim that if you give them the right to drive, they get all of those things and they're going to suck our system dry,
right.
Even though that's a blatant lie.
Right.
We're all safer if everybody out there has a license that can identify them when they're in an accident.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned it before. You said, we as a community don't do a lot of bad things, right? And that's because we understand that it's a privilege to be here, and we understand that we are delighted to be here. So therefore, we're going to try to do the best possible safe way to contribute back to the community, but also to benefit ourselves as well. So.
Vicente, we're going to have to take a break. These 8-minute sections go in a hurry with such an interesting topic, but we're going to be right back and discuss this subject further. Welcome back to It's Your Law. My guest is Hiram Torres. Always nice to have you on the show and talk about this particular subject. As a hard-working immigrant with a family, a business, a home, and a lot of contributions to the community, you are also a concerned citizen, not only for all of us, but for the people who are immigrants, and they're especially vulnerable today in this political climate. I think that there are important dates in all of our lives, whether we were born here or not. The day we were born, the day we got married, the day we die, but the one that everybody remembers is the day they got their driver's license. That's the license to freedom. And I think you know more than anybody how important that license is. Can you explain that to us?
It is very important. Thank you for having me. It is very important in our community. Having a driver license will be a door of freedom, not to be affair or feel a certain fear trying to approach the law enforcement. We had once or a couple of times where the law enforcement approached the community. Of course, they have to do their job. They mentioned that regardless your skin color, regardless where you're coming from, regardless your language, we are here to protect you, right? The law enforcement, the police department in Fond du Lac. And of course, when they reached the point where, do you have any questions? Well, nobody raised their hands because still, even sharing that information, we're here to protect you. It is some type of fear, and you can feel it. And if we are allowed to have a driver card or a driver license, as I mentioned before, you are not allowed to vote. You're just gonna have a way to learn the rules, pass an exam, like I said, and that kind of situation. A point that the one I bring up was, everybody, if you're allowed to have your driver card, let's put it this way, why you don't just make it mandatory at the DMV, where you can come over and get we are allowed to get our license plates from the DMV, but why not make it mandatory where, show me proof of insurance, and then I will issue your license plates. I mean, I'm assuming that would be a good thing, right? Economy-wise in the state.
Oh, it would be absolutely wonderful if we think about that. First of all, you have to pay for your driver's license. Secondly, right, you pay to the state for the renewal of your driver's license. Thirdly, you pay for insurance. Insurance is mandatory, but it's awfully hard to get, and there's no real easy way to get it. and there's some fear applying for it when you can't even identify yourself with a driver's license.
Yep.
When you go to the bank to cash a check, they want to see your driver's license.
Sure.
When you enroll your kids in school, they identify you with your driver's license. Well, we could go on. It is absolutely crippling to not have a driver's license. And I would think the people who would be most desirous of having immigrants to have a driver's license are the police, because that makes their job easy. They can find out who was in this accident or who needs to go to the hospital.
That's correct. That's correct. Yes. When we reached them back, and I actually had this question: would you be willing to support a movement, the one is kind of going on at this state level? And of course, they said that we don't do the laws; we just enforce the law. So if you wanna, reach certain level, you have to reach who represents, in this case, the county and the state level, and then you need to reach the people who make the law, because we just enforce the law. And I completely understand. They're just trying to do their job, but it would be beneficial. It is unfair, again, being stopped just because you're going to work.
Well, it is currently the law in 13 or 14 states that undocumented immigrants not only are eligible for a driver's license, it's required. And it was the law until I think 2007 in Wisconsin. Do you know why that was changed?
Well, back then, the federal government introduced, I believe that it was called the Real ID. And there's where people without legal status, they have no way to prove that they're in the States legally, So unfortunately, that happened, and people kind of run out of paths to find the proper way. Another comment, good thing you bring it up, Wisconsin could be the 16th state in all the nation. If we show some effort, if we have the support from people to issue driver license. I know that immigration is a federal issue, but at state level, I think we can do something with the voters, people who learn from hopefully these type of situations, and they can educate the son, the parent, the grandparent, and they can see it from a different perspective, the need of having a driver license. Economy-wise, on these other states, you can have a driver license. The closest state is Illinois. We can try just to move to Illinois, but we are being part of this great state also. And we are trying just to stay in this state instead of going to a different state, the one we can probably we welcome. But again, I'm a business owner. I want to be part of Wisconsin, and I'm going to try to find the proper way to stay here, hopefully with the support of the audience.
Well, people who are immigrants make great contributions. They're more likely to be employed, to work hard, and to keep their families intact because they are grateful to be here. And yet we handicap them because we don't give them the basic tool that we actually need to keep track of all of our people, and that is a driver's license. I think it is incredibly short-sighted, punitive, and what the justification is, I do not know. And I appreciate the work that you and many others are doing to call to people's attention how unjust, unfair, and foolish this is at great personal risk. You are undocumented. You're calling attention to yourself as an undocumented person, maybe even a troublemaker. And that's the highest compliment I can give somebody in this country. Thank you, Hiram.
Thank you.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Why is immigration such an emotional subject? Do the politicians need a scapegoat? Why blame immigrants? They're less likely to commit a crime. They're more likely to work. They're more likely to work jobs that you and I don't want. They contribute to taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, and in most instances they can't draw on any of those things. They are a positive contribution to our country and their country, and they simply want to be a part of this country so it can be their country too. We were built into a great nation by immigrants. Let's continue to welcome them and help them succeed.